Hello and welcome to another short video about building bots using the OpenChat Bot framework. Today I'm going to do a deep dive into the bot definition. Bots are server components that can interact with OpenChat, typically by sending messages within the community, channels, groups and direct chats into which they're installed. When you create an OpenChat bot, whether it's hosted in an internet computer canister or as an off-chain server, it must provide metadata about its purpose and the commands it provides before it can be registered on OpenChat. This is referred to as the bot's definition. The bot definition must be returned when an HTTP GET request is made to the path /bot_definition of your bot's endpoint. When you register a bot using the register bot command, OpenChat will query the bot endpoint for its definition and ensure it's valid. You'll also be able to browse through the definition in the OpenChat UI at that point to double check everything looks correct. As your bot implementation changes over time, you must make sure your definition remains up to date and correct. When the definition changes, you must also tell OpenChat it's changed using the update bot command. This allows OpenChat to load and validate the new definition. It's important this is kept up to date because it controls how OpenChat will present the capabilities and requirements of your bot to OpenChat community owners and users. The bot definition must conform to the JSON schema defined here. We'll just take a quick look at that now. But rather than analysing the schema, which is necessarily verbose, let's look at the bot definition defined in Rust. When this is serialized as JSON, it conforms to the JSON schema. So I've got the OpenChat bots repo open in Visual Studio Code, and in the root there's a folder called schema, and in there bot schema.json. And this is where the JSON schema is defined. So let's now take a look at the bot definition defined in Rust. This is the form I'm most used to seeing, or most used to using. The first thing to notice is that it doesn't contain the bot's name. This is because the bot name must be unique within OpenChat, and so a name is chosen when the bot is registered. It does include the description of the bot, which is shown in the OpenChat user interface in various places associated with the bot. It also defines a list of commands, and finally, the bot definition specifies an optional autonomous config. When a bot is installed in a community, group, or direct chat, users within this location can issue commands by typing / in the message input. This pops up a list of available commands aggregated across all bots installed in this location. In the message entry, users continue typing to filter the list of commands until they have found the desired command. This is made possible because OpenChat knows the commands offered by each bot from their definitions, and which ones are available based on those installed in the current scope and the permissions granted in this scope. So now let's look at the bot command definition. Each command has a name and an optional description, which are self-explanatory. The optional placeholder is used as a message in the chat panel when the OpenChat app is waiting for a response from the bot. If this is left undefined, then the message just shows ... Next are the list of params that the command takes, which could be empty. And let's have a look at an individual bot command param. When a user types a / command, they can either select it from the pop-up, in which case, if there are command parameters defined, a dialog box will be shown with the appropriate user interface input widgets for each type of parameter. Or the user can fully type the / command and keep typing any parameter values, aka command arguments, into the message entry field, in which case OpenChat will validate the inputs to ensure they conform to the parameter definitions. Each parameter has a name and description. It has an optional placeholder, which is shown in the parameter input widget as a guide to the user. It also has a flag to indicate whether this is a required parameter. If not, the user can leave it empty and the bot will use a default value. Finally, the parameter type is specified. A parameter can either be a Boolean, a string, an integer, a decimal, a date time, or a user ID, an OpenChat user ID. And we'll probably add more over time. In the case of strings, integers, and decimals, the range of possible values can be specified, and also a list of possible choices. If choices are specified, then OpenChat will show a drop-down list for this parameter with the possible options. And these are the only options that would be allowed in that case. Looking back up at the bot command definition, next field is permissions. This is the set of permissions the bot requires to take an action or actions within OpenChat when this command is executed. For simplicity, the bot permissions type includes permissions for all types of OpenChat action, whether at community, chat, or message scope, regardless of whether this makes sense when used in a particular context. For instance, commands can currently only be issued within chats, so community permissions like create private channel don't apply, whereas they do make sense for a bot acting with a community-scoped API key. When the owner of a particular location, community group or direct chat, installs a bot, they can choose which permissions to grant to the bot, and this will determine which commands are available for use within this location. The bot permissions, let's go and look at the bot permissions. This struct looks somewhat impenetrable. It basically bit encodes the permissions for community chat and message as a U32. And this is because otherwise it could take considerable space when serialized, such as in JWTs or in API keys. However, it provides an interface here which allows you to consider it as a set of community permissions, a set of chat permissions, and a set of message permissions. And let's have a look at, so here's a list, the current list of community permissions. And here's a list of chat permissions. This includes permission to do certain actions and permissions to read certain pieces of information. And then finally the message permissions. So let's go back to the bot command definition. So still looking at the bot command, the next field is the default role, an optional default role. This can either be, well, let's have a quick look, owner, admin, moderator, or participant, with the default being participant if this is left undefined. This is a hint to OpenChat to use the default when asking the bot installer which member roles are able to call this command. In fact, at the time of writing, OpenChat does not ask the installer, so that's usually the owner of the community or group or whatever, which roles can call each command. And so default role actually allows the bot developer to specify which roles should be able to call this command, rather than just being a default. Roles are hierarchical, so for instance, if the default role is admin, this means it can be called by all members either with the admin or owner role. And the final field is direct messages. This flag indicates to OpenChat that this command supports direct messages. This only applies when a bot is installed as a direct chat. In this case, if free text is entered in the message box rather than a / command, OpenChat will implicitly send this command to the bot and will split the user text and bot response into two separate messages. This allows the user to interact in a conversational style, particularly appropriate for API bots. To be eligible, the first parameter of the command should be a string, must be a string, and it can have no other required parameters. Logically, only one command should have direct messages set to true, but in case there are multiple, OpenChat will simply pick the first one. So now, going back to the top level bot definition, we've looked at commands. So the final field is autonomous config. Let's scroll over that. So This tells OpenChat which permissions the bot would like in order to take autonomous actions. When a bot is installed, that is as opposed to as the result of commands. When a bot is installed, the user can choose which of these permissions to grant the bot within this scope. The installer can then generate an API key for the bot in the scope. The installer can give this API key to a third party to enable a particular integration, say to a GitHub action which calls the bot to send a message whenever a PR is created. Alternatively, if the bot needs to act autonomously rather than in response to a call from a third party, then it should set the sync API key flag. This will direct the OpenChat UI to show a triangular sync API key button next to the API key, which will send the API key directly to the bot. In response, the bot should store it in a map of scope to API key so it can subsequently take the permitted autonomous actions within these scopes. A map API key registry is provided by the SDK for this purpose. And we can see that here. So this just defines a map of scope to API key record. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and see you soon in another bot video.